All right, here we are about to enter round 5. And so an interesting thing we've got in the field today, we have 2 Azorius control decks and 2 Jeskai control decks. The 2 Jeskai control decks have 1 win total. The 2 Azorius control
Oh
decks
no.
have 1 loss.
Oh wow.
So let's go ahead and take a look at an example of the Azorius control, which is doing well today.
Much better than the Jeskai control ones.
Yeah.
All right. So
Significantly.
let's take a look. This is kind of one of the most, I would say, popular archetypes that exist in Modern as a whole through most of time, I would say. And it's kind of ebbed and flowed with how good it is, but we all know the one person who's just always playing blue-white control. So I think it's always interesting to take a look at how these decks are evolving, if there's anything that's changed. But for the most part, this is looking pretty similar to what we've been seeing for a long time, except for if you can notice in the bottom left-hand corner, there's a little Shark Typhoon hiding out in the corner right there, which seems to be the newest card that I can pinpoint in the deck.
And only 1 copy. And this is a deck that, like, looking through it, almost nothing really stands out.
Yeah, and that's kind of just how it goes when this deck has been around for so long.
Mm-hmm. It's all strong cards. Mm-hmm. And there's not really dedicated win conditions, which is a great way to play control if you can get away with it. There's 1 Shark Typhoon, there's 1 Timely Reinforcements, and then there's just the kind of stuff we expect to see. And there's Planeswalkers. We see a couple of Narsets, which are going to be great in some matchups and speed buffs in some others. Yeah, and this is just a clean control deck, and doing well. And there's a couple copies, and they're just crushing. So another way you can start out well in a new field is just play something that was already established. And like, this deck didn't really change what it had to play against changed, but itself, it's for the most part what it would have looked like a few months ago. Exactly. We do have standings, so we can see what is joining these blue whites that are doing well. Humans.
All right.
Humans in the top 2 spots.
So, yeah. Prior to this, the top 11, we had 2 Azorius control decks and 2 humans decks. It looks like the 2 humans decks are continuing to remain victorious. One of the Azorius control decks took a loss last round, and it fell into 12th place there.
Yeah, but we see some 1 through 6, and again, these are effectively all tied with each other. The tiebreakers will tighten up as the day goes along, and at some point may represent something, but as long as these players keep winning, they'll be all set. We do have the Tron player 1, 2 humans decks, Grixis Death Shadow, Mardu midrange, which we watched, and in the Azorius control. So, yeah. Now, this is not, I don't know if this is Azorius control deck we looked at or not, that's in 5th. Mm-hmm. But as the field starts to spread out and the sample size grows, we have 3 5-color human decks in the field, and 2 of them are in top 2 spots. So, yeah, that's a couple decks with only a few players that are really pushing to the top of the standings. So whether that means those decks are well suited to the current metagame, or it just means that everyone else's deck is a poorly tuned mess of Kaldheim cards, and those players, being humans and blue-eye control, are just playing the cards that they're used to and crushing. I don't know, but we'll see.
It could be a little bit of both too.
Yeah, it could be. I mean, there's all kinds of elements of influence what goes well in the Magic tournament. We are going to be watching blue-eye control versus Grixis Death Shadow, and we have deck lists ready, so let's see them. Lakad Matataaag, Grixis Death Shadow. Lakad is the pronunciation. Or Lakad, it looks like. Okay.
Yes.
So, Grixis Death Shadow. Do we have 2 sets of Death Shadows? We do not. We only have 1. So this is also...
Yeah, I do believe that this is actually, at least the 60 looks to be pretty much exactly what was in the list dump that we saw earlier, as it's also still playing the one of Royal Scions.
Sure. Royal Scions, a cool card, a way to boost some damage through, gain some card advantage, and an ultimate that can happen. All right, the players are getting ready to start. Let's look at blue control. We'll see if it's the same list or not. It is the same list. All right, we don't need to see it. Let's go to the match.
Yeah. Okay, well, no.
Bluffed again. Production, not an all-star performance today. So here we go back to the
No.
Blue White Control deck. All right. So facing Death Shadow, having a lot of removal, good. The Oust is nice because on the occasion that there's actually like a player's at 10 with 2 Death Shadows, you get to kill both of them with 1 Oust. Supreme Verdict Sweepers are nice. Timing Reinforcement's nice. Yeah, this looks like.
Yeah, and if any deck is gonna also have like a pretty good matchup against UI control, the Death Shadow decks are kind of playing their own, what I would typically call tempo, where they are playing a cheap, usually doing something, playing a cheap threat, and then keeping the rest of their mana back to be reactive, which the Death Shadow decks certainly are, and is gonna hopefully put them in a pretty good position against this blue-white control deck. However, there is a Teferi Time Raveler in the hand of Josh Feliciano, and that is going to make it a little bit difficult for Lakad to have a lot of these reactive sort of spells go in their favor.
All right, so we're on a mulligan here from Josh's side, trying to decide what card to put back. My vote would be the Snapcaster Mage. The second copy of Urk would be the other alternative, I would think, and those do appear to be the cards being considered. Verdict does go down. Lakad did keep a full 7 on the draw. So some natural card advantage, and let's see how he goes about attacking the blue control deck. Certainly leading off with the discard spell is great.
Going to be a hard thing for the blue-white control deck to answer, especially this early in the game, and is usually how a lot of these Grixis Shadow decks like to start off. And is certainly going to do a good job of getting rid of this Teferi, hopefully, if that is the play.
Okay, it's an Inquisition, so Supreme Verdict cannot be chosen.
But the Teferi can, which I would imagine is likely going to be the pick, as we, again, want to have our reactive spells be able to resolve. And Teferi says, I just want things to go at sorcery speed for you, not for me, just for you. So I imagine that we do not want that. Also, it bouncing Death Shadow, probably a little bit annoying.
Sure. The no cheap removal. Yep, Teferi is the choice. So not a lot. I mean, Josh's first few turns are going to be building up mana anyway, but even in the game that's going well. But in this game, there's not going to be any options. Island comes down over Flood Strand, wanting to avoid thinning the deck for as long as possible, since more land are required. Seems like the right way to go. And unfortunately we'll see. Death Shadow deck obviously wants to pressure a lot. It's going to take a Street Wraith or a Thoughtseize to get a Shadow on the board this turn.
Yeah. All right, trying our best to bring our life total down as much as possible with these fetches and shocks.
Okay, there is a Thoughtseize. So that will allow, if there is a Death Shadow, it can now be cast.
The Thoughtseize is in fact what is able to come down, which is what we said would need to happen for us to play a Death Shadow, should we choose to.
Well, I imagine if we have one, we're going to choose to do it. Growing Angler's one short of cards in the graveyard, so that can't happen yet. So the only real threat is the Shadow, even though calling a 1/1 a threat is maybe generous, but
at least it's a 1/1 for 1.
Yeah, sure. Cannot currently attack through a Snapcaster Mage, but we'll get there.
We've been sitting here hyping up a 4 mana 1/1, so a 1 mana 1/1 not so bad.
Well, it's going to turn out to actually be more like a 5/5 that dies, I think, because Archmage's Charm actually has a mode to steal a 1-costing card. So,
in fact,
this Death Shadow might be switching teams and then dying, as Josh is not below 13 life. And all right, so that's, I mean, as far as mana cost goes, that's a terrible trade. 1 mana for 3, but
yeah, it really
it's off the board at least. And
it sure beats a possibly explosive turn of Lakad going down quite a bit of a life from fetching, shocking a little bit more, and possibly casting something like a Teamer Battle Rage, saving us quite a bit of mana for the 3 mana cost. Interesting that we chose to do it on our main phase, I think.
I mean,
but
we don't want to get it tagged by, since we have to tap out for it, we don't want Stubborn Denial to be alive, I think.
Very true.
So 4 cards in hand for Lakad. Let's see what we're looking for. Any sort of threat. Royal Zions would be fine. Gurmag Angler, any creature, anything we can put on the board. There's an Angler. Wipes the graveyard, leaves up 1 land. So
a very spooky zombie fish.
Okay. Opt is fine. Opt into a land here, allowing Snapcaster to flash it back. That seems like it would be, well, not that land, but...
Yeah, tap land, not going to be able to allow us to do that game plan.
Yeah, but even though it doesn't allow the perfection of using all the mana, it's still... Josh does need more land, so it is selected anyway. And against Death Shadow, they do enough damage to themselves that sometimes a colony can just randomly win a game out of nowhere.
That's
with
certainly
one
true.
shot. But this is not... I mean, if we could magically teleport into one of these chairs right now, I would not want to be in Josh's seat so much. He's got some work to do to catch this up.
Yeah, it's going to be feeling really good if you're playing Death Shadow and you have more cards in hand than your control opponent. And your control opponent is also spending a lot of resources to just try and hit land drops.
Yeah. I mean, the mulligans will do that to you, but yeah. So, Royal Zions comes down. This has a looting effect. It has a pumping effect, and it has an ultimate that I believe draws 4 and then shoots anything for the number of cards in your hand. Maybe we can pop that up. I'm pretty sure that's what the 3 modes are.
I believe that sounds right.
But Royal Zions comes in, that's a 1-of, and makes this Gurmag Angler a lot more threatening. Yeah, so there we go. +1, draw a card, then discard a card. +1, target creature gets +2/+0 against first strike and trample. That is the mode we saw activated, so that would suggest that Lakad is pretty happy with his hand at the moment. And then the ultimate, draw 4 cards, then Royal Zions shoots anything for the number of cards in your hand. So Cryptic Command is going to bounce the Angler. Effective play, since with no graveyard, the Angler is not coming back down.
Mm-hmm. Very true. But we do still have a Planeswalker, which typically spell a little bit of trouble for control decks still in play, and with relevant abilities, as the ability to loot, could just mean that we discard this Angler that just got sent back to our hand and try to look for something a little more effective to put onto the board.
Yeah, although, yeah, there's definitely, depending on the makeup of the hand, I mean, 1 looting effect plus a fetch land would actually allow the Angler to come back down. But the land making the little soldier human tokens does disrupt the ability of the Angler to do much.
But at least Royal Scions gives trample.
Yeah, but Royal Zions will get around that. And it does, it is approaching its ultimate. That's 7. It only needs 8. Are we passing? No play. And the Angler could have been cast. Yeah. Because there was a fetch. So Lakad has something in store for Josh, whether it's a pile of counters or
trying to figure out what it could possibly be.
It's nothing. Wow.
Perhaps it could still be some amount of denial, possibly, though I don't know what we're expecting our opponent to spend a ton of mana on this turn.
Yeah.
And just saying, I have this Royal Scions in play, it's going to become a problem, so try and spend this turn figuring it out, and I'm going to continue to just try to fix my hand. We do see the Gurmag Angler.
Right, the Angler gets pitched. The Snapcaster for Cryptic Command would use all 6 of Josh's mana, so even a weakened Stubborn Denial would still be effective there. There's a Street Wraith. Oh, God, going to 10. And so next turn, Royal Scions can ultimate, although I don't necessarily expect us to get to that point, as Snapcaster Mage can take a couple loyalty off of it or a soldier token. Also, with decklist being open and the Field of Ruin in play, Josh is aware of whether or not that Field of Ruin is actually just a strip mine right now. But it might be the case that Lakad only has the 1 island in play. I don't have the decklist open in front of me, but Josh does, so he will know that.
Yeah, that's got to be a little spooky for sure to be staring down the face of, which is also perhaps why Lakad has not sacrificed this polluted delta quite yet.
Mm-hmm. Maybe we can get confirmation of production on the basic land count in Lakad's deck.
And it looks like that is... Oh, nope. Snapcaster Mage is going to be the play to hopefully take down some of the loyalty on the Royal Scions, I imagine.
Okay, so it is just the one island. The one island is the only basic, so there is no replacement if Field Run is activated. Oh yeah, we're going to see Archmage Charm instead of Cryptic Command, perhaps to play around Stubborn Denial, which I like quite a bit because really, what is Lakad holding at this point? If it's not counter magic.
If it's not counter magic, and we chose not to play the Gurmag Angler last turn, as you mentioned. Yeah. So we're just going to try and refill our hand a little bit.
If there's removal in Lakad's hand, the Snapcaster Mage needs to go down now before the blue mana is untapped. Because Royal Zion's ultimate is not going to end the game immediately, but I would expect that with the hand, if it resolves, the boost is going to put Lakad in a winning position. Mm-hmm. Here we have probably a Dismember as Lakad's life total is changing.
Mm-hmm. I would assume as well. Oh, life total changing again, maybe deciding not to.
There is still the matter of the Celestial Colony, which can also hit the Royal Zions, but at least in that case, Josh is committing a lot of mana.
Mm-hmm. Ooh.
Well, Teferi is excellent, as that with Royal Zions, and Mana Leak is there to protect it, although I don't know that it would even need protection, but it's there if it's needed. Yep, Teferi, Hero of Dominaria. This is also a singleton. Each of these Planeswalkers is a singleton in the deck, and this is a very strong Planeswalker, which I have to imagine is going to dump. No. Okay, so there's some second thought then? Or are we just retapping to...
I'm trying to decide, and I'm also trying to decide, like, if you were to play the Teferi and you're worried about something like a Stubborn Denial, do you not just, like, pay for the Stubborn Denial?
Yeah.
And pay for it a second time should a second one be cast instead of even using your Mana Leak? Probably.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, you pay for as many of them as there are. There would have to be 3, which maybe there are because Lakad, I mean, he must have something in his hand.
It could be 3 Stubborn Denials, in which case, is it worth doing all 3 Stubborn Denials? Yes. I'm inclined to agree as well.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. A different 1 mana blue spell in Thought Scour is the play. Ooh, a tense turn, seeing what we can draw off of the Thought Scour.
Somewhat amusingly, the Thought Scour, even though it wouldn't necessarily make sense as a play, the Thought Scour allows the immediate redraw of whatever the Teferi bonds, because we'll mill the 2 cards in between and then draw the 3rd card. But with these cantrips, so what? Because Lakad could have played these cantrips during his own turn and chose to wait. All right, so Teferi comes down, minuses, buries the Royal Zions, and
we've been confused about what's been in Lakad's hand for most of this game, and it's only getting more confusing.
Yeah, it's just obviously it's not a strong hand, and that's not something you can always do anything about if that's what you're stuck with. And now Lakad, after the Dismember, Lakad is at, and the Street Wraith, Lakad is at 4. So now this Celestial Colony is lethal if it comes down to it. And Death Shadow is not great at stopping flyers in general, or blocking flyers. It does have removal that can kill it, which it's probably going to need.
Yeah, certainly. It seems like we've just made a lot of plays that have maybe put us a little bit behind, and hoping that this Death Shadow is able to stay on the field might be a little too scary, but at least we're playing around this Mana Leak.
Yeah, I actually like this a lot. Josh thought about fetching there and maybe to play the Mana Leak. I would have preferred that to be done because Lakad
There's,
cannot.
yeah,
Lakad
not a
cannot
lot you
pay.
can do.
Yeah, Lakad cannot pay for the mana leak because then the colony would kill him. However, I suppose
The
if you
colonnade still kills him.
right, if we opt into a land, then I think we can attack with the mana leak up, which would just cement the game. Barring what?
Fatal
Push
push
and a counter.
and a counter, yeah. Which the Death Shadows do turn on Stubborn Denial so that
Yeah.
they can't be countered.
The land
But the Snapcaster Mage with, I imagine we have Cryptic Command, but I don't think we have another sort of counterspell in our graveyard. So
right, these are very large Death Shadows. The cards that are stuck in Lakad's hand, Fatal Push and Stubborn Denial would make sense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and just spent the entire time setting up their hand for this next turn to attempt to win off of just this.
Yeah, well, and that would be reasonable. We're going to see the Supreme Verdict here. So
Can't
this
be
is going to
countered.
reset the board, and
I also imagine that spells the end of this game for Lakad.
Yeah, it's going to be awfully hard to recover from this as these shadows are gone and the Teferi's on the board and mana is untapped.
And if the cards in hand are what we suspect them to be, they're certainly not very good cards to come back from this position.
No.
But we are going to be drawing the Royal Scions.
No, that got shuffled away. It got
shuffled away by a right fetch.
But Shark Typhoon for 2 would mean doesn't actually do. I mean,
it doesn't do the same thing as just activating Colonnade. So that's probably the safer play to be continuing to try and go for.
We'll see. I mean, there's kind of momentum in this game kind of ground to a halt as if Lakad was trying to set up like a nifty way to steal the game there. That's gone. That is not happening.
Yeah, so now we're trying to see, can we make another plan? Can we put something else together? But with the Teferi in play, it seems like you're just in kind of a scary position. But Kolaghan's Command would have been nice if there wasn't this mana leak in the hand of Zaros.
Yeah, and this is I'm not even sure that this mana leak needed to be cast.
You think you could have just let that happen and we were still in a great place?
I could have just held it up to protect my colonnade from anything.
Oh, fair. But if we do think that the Stubborn Denial doesn't really do anything when there's no longer a Death Shadow in play. You're right. Yeah.
Is all not going to matter as Josh is going to win this game however he pleases, whether it's... Oh, actually, Ghost Quarter also works.
Yeah, that does, in fact, do quite a bit here.
Ghost Quarter can wipe out the Watery Grave, and then even if mana is floated, the colony can be animated in the beginning of combat step after the mana clears, and Lakad will not be able to survive. Oh no! Production was wrong. There is a swamp in the deck. So one of two things is the case. Either Lakad's deck list is wrong, or tremendously more likely, production still not having the greatest day ever.
It is okay. Instead, we are just going to make a 1/1. My dog is very excited about what's happening. I don't know if we can hear the squeaky toy in the background, but we are going to take it down from the side of blue.
All right. So Josh wins that game despite the mulligan and really looked to be in control most of the game. Once that Royal Scions was off the board, Lakad may have been setting up basically a way to steal the game, but the Supreme Verdict ended any hope of that, and that was really it. So let's go ahead and look and see what the players might be sideboarding here, see if things can improve from Lakad's side.
Oh, we've got those mystical disputes, and I imagine that those are one of the first things that you're eyeing. Probably the disdainful strokes for some of the bigger planeswalkers are certainly going to come in as well. Maybe another Kolaghan's Command, maybe the Nile Spell Bombs if you're interested in getting rid of some of the Snapcaster Mage targets. I don't know. What do you think?
Well, I agree with you. Mystical Dispute will be the first card brought in. Disdainful Stroke, I'm skeptical. It does hit Jace. It hits Teferi, the Hero of Dominaria. It hits Cryptic Command, but I'm not confident. I feel like those are maybe in there for the 5-color green decks. They're in there for Primeval Titan decks. Maybe we'll see it, but I'm not convinced. Because the Supreme Verdict, the card you really like to hit, can't be countered anyway, and then we're just looking at a few targets. I don't know. We'll see. We could see it. Let's go ahead and look at the other deck, Josh Feliciano's Blue deck, which we saw earlier. Here we have Rest in Peace. I don't want to make a judgment call on that,
but I would imagine it likely is going to be something that you would be eyeing as makes my matchup against Death Shadow a little bit easier.
Sure. Celestial Purge is a clear winner. Timing Reinforcements, Wrath of God. The other stuff is still, like, I don't know that the disputes on Josh's side are automatic. In fact, I think they probably aren't, but we could see them. Spell Queller does a lot of work. Are we going to see that in a game where you want a Wrath? I don't know about that. Narcissist feels like an easy cut.
You think so?
Yes, you sound skeptical. Am I wrong?
I'm just thinking of the times that I played Death Shadow. I guess it isn't as reliant on the extra card draw as maybe some other decks, but I feel like when I played Grixis Death Shadow, there was quite a bit of extra drawing involved.
Sure. Yeah.
I suppose it certainly isn't quite as reliant, but I don't think that the card is certainly bad. Maybe you keep 1 or 2 in. It didn't seem like there was a whole lot that you wanted to bring in, so it feels like it maybe isn't the first choice to cut is probably where I'm really ending up.
Yeah, okay. Josh on 6 cards again, which didn't cost him anything last game. And Lakad's life total rapidly diminishing. We're down to 15 on turn 1, but no Thoughtseize.
At least there's that. Thoughtseize was kind of one of the things that was maybe causing Zaros to stumble last game, but this game, we won't have to worry about that.
All right, so Lakad's problem really last game was he had, we're imagining, was stuck on too many reactive cards once his initial creatures got dealt with. And then also that Teferi, Hero of Dominaria. Without that, Lakad would have been sitting pretty with his Royal Zion's Ultimate. Here we have 13 life. We need to do something else in order to get Death Shadow down. We don't have enough for Angler. I would look. Hopefully, for God's sake, we're doing something. This counts.
Yeah, this helps us quite a bit. Does that get us? That does get us to Angler, so we could be casting it now. I would turn to Angler. Certainly not the shabbiest play, but a Thoughtseize works okay too, and at least is gonna hopefully get something juicy out of Zaros' hand.
All right. Well, you can see your selections at home. We don't know Lakad's hand. He has 5 cards. I would be inclined to take Snapcaster Mage. The choice is Teferi, which is totally reasonable.
Certainly was the choice last game, is the choice this game. Don't want to have to deal with that card at all.
Fetch line is played so that Logic Knot can be for 3 if it needs to be.
Basically doing its best mana link compression. Mishra's Bauble. We're certainly filling up our graveyard quite a bit on Lakad's side.
Yeah, that is definitely true. So these anglers are going to be very cheap if they're drawn this game.
Yeah.
There is a shadow. This can be countered.
If you see Rest in Peace in the side, you said you weren't sure that the blue-white deck exactly wants to bring in Rest in Peace.
Right.
Do you think there's a possibility where just seeing the Rest in Peace makes you go, oh, maybe I bring some anglers out? Or do you think most of the time you can play anglers so early that you just want it in anyway?
No, I think that's possible. That they got trimmed for other manner of threats. A Stubborn Denial here would be nice, or a Dispute.
Still possibly the case.
Without one, we're going to again be in a spot where Josh doesn't have a lot, but Lakad is no threat. But here is a dispute. Okay, so Shadow will make it into play. It's only a 2/2, but it's on the board, and it currently can't be. Well, I guess Snapcaster Mage can block it, but
oh, we spoke too soon.
Yeah, so there's a removal spell. I mean, there are plenty of spot removal spells in the deck, so it's not impossible that one is drawn. There it is. Death Shadow becomes the third card. I don't know how deep it is. It might be second. I don't remember. Maybe we can bring up Oust. Unless, Becky, you remember on top of your head, does Oust make it the second or third card in the deck?
Second card.
Never mind. It doesn't matter anymore. The deck was now shuffled, so...
It is second card from the top, but...
Okay. It is the second card. Lots of consistency here. Teferi third, Oust second.
Yeah.
But shuffled away.
Yeah, wherever it got put in the deck doesn't matter when you're playing so many fetches that everything just ends up all in a muddled sort of place. Oh, all right. The Snapcaster coming down of Lakad's own. Oh, all right. Yeah. Now we're getting somewhere.
This is pretty strong. This is kind of, latest point in a game where Josh has kind of had nothing going on. Well, okay.
I mean, that's not the best card to return to somebody's hand.
No, it's not.
But it was funny, the collective and immediate groan for Teferi Time Raveler.
Yeah, I think if we play this here, I think we might just be plussing. Because if it gets attacked, then we can still cash it in for a card later.
That's true.
Seems reasonable to me.
And you kind of just want it to at least try and survive?
Yeah, okay, so it's not even going to be cast. Oh. Instead, it's going to watch as Field of Ruin strips red mana away from Lakad.
Okay, an interesting choice here, but knowing likely that there are no mountains in the Grixis Death Shadow deck. So yes, this is taking away all forms of red mana unless there's another fetch in the hand of Lakad, or perhaps maybe just another red shock. But
we need some kind of haymaker here. We need... Okay.
Well, all right, get us some red mana back. That helps a little bit. And there's a haymaker. Death Shadow itself, the namesake of the deck, onto the battlefield as a 6/6. But now it might seem that Teferi's going to come down.
Yeah, well, Teferi, I mean, comes down, bounces, dies, and then Death Shadow comes back down. That's not, that's not a plan. That's just, that's not exciting. I mean, I would.
But it might just be the only choice as far as.
Whoa.
Yeah. All right. Well, we talked about it all last game, but it shows up in this game.
Yeah. So. Death Shadow plus Stubborn Denial, that's a plan. This is something. This is Death Shadow's an 8 right now, so we're coming over for 10.
I think it's a 6 right now.
You're right. You're right, because 8 and 7 is 15, and clearly that math degree was well earned by me.
But we have 2 cards in hand. We don't quite have lethal if it's Team Up Battle Rage, we get +2 or +1/+1. So it could have been lethal if we had a Team Up Battle Rage, but we don't. Shark Typhoon, not the worst card to draw. It at least can draw us a new card and make a blocker for this Death Shadow.
Yeah. It's a chump blocker, but it's something.
Sometimes a chump blocker is better than no blocker at all.
Yeah. So again, Lakad, if there's not too many cards, like Lakad's deck doesn't really have the situation. The only situational card you can be stuck with here is a counter. But a removal spell, he'll find a use. He'll find a use for. If he has backup threats, I mean that's not the worst either. He could also have extra land in his hand. Again, we don't know. We're watching from Josh's point of view, so the questions that we're pondering are the same questions that Josh is probably thinking through.
Oh, all right. Mishra's Bauble to start. The patience from Josh here is good with this Shark Typhoon. Most of the things that we could draw off of Shark Typhoon that still keep us alive are likely going to be some bigger or some cheaper instant spells. So.
So 1 mana left open. I like that. As the token being 2/2 or 3/3 doesn't matter. Drown the Lock takes it down. Ooh.
Oh.
So
that's a new card.
Well, is that hasty? We had Josh had a card coming from that Shark Typhoon. That's a Path to Exile to remove Death Shadow. This game's not over.
Agree. I think that.
So that was maybe a little hasty concession on Josh's part. That is something that I have done on occasion, playing.
We all have
Magic on the internet, where it's like you get frustrated, or you're just like, "Oh, we're done," concede, and then someone is like, "Hey, you know what? You're not dead."
Yeah, you gotta keep playing to your outs. Sometimes you gotta take a moment.
And then you say like, "Oh, well, see, it was the principle of the thing, and I was just conceding anyway." And then you have some long, whiny excuse to justify the fact that you messed up.
Yeah, we all do it.
That's how I roll. Anyway,
yeah.
All right, let's go ahead and look back at the decks for a moment. Josh has, that game wasn't super long, so just because we didn't see a sideboard card doesn't mean it's not there.
Yeah.
But we did see actually nothing. We saw no sideboard card from Josh.
Yeah, none.
I think it's fair to say that he did sideboard, however, despite no evidence of it.
I would be inclined to agree. It was cool to see the Drown in the Walk come.
Yeah,
and be part of that game as a newer card and yes.
Josh has not kept a 7-card hand yet in this match.
But looks like okay. It is a little scary if we don't draw a land. We don't really have a way to find another land. We don't have something like a Serum Visions or an Opt as a way to look for something new. Just the Scalding Tarn, no shock. Okay, we just drew the land anyway. Not a worry in the world.
And you were right. Narset stayed in.
Again, it could have been something where we took out a few, but I don't think that there was enough that we wanted to put in where we took out all 3. I believe we're playing 3 Narsets.
I think that's right. But yeah, there at least some of them are still in there. It's a lot of 3 drops. So Stubborn Denial is going to be looking strong here, no matter what Josh chooses to play. What do we think? Whoa, that's another nice 3. That's certainly not going to be the play. Okay, so I thought maybe it would be Hold Up Charm, but it's just going to be Narset onto the board.
Yeah, I think that this is a smart play. If we did decide that Narset isn't maybe the best card in the matchup, but is still in the deck, playing it first and using it as a way to bait out, which it did, this Stubborn Denial is a really great way to set up for the later turns where we're trying to do this Archmage's Charm, we're trying to get this Teferi to resolve. So I think that using it as kind of like a little bit of a bait is certainly the best way to use this. Maybe not the most optimal card.
All right, the worst card here for Josh would probably be the Royal Zions, because that's something he can't currently deal with. Whereas any creatures are easily handled.
Thankfully, it is a creature.
And I mean, this can be handled in multiple different ways.
Yeah, we're just trying to pick which way we want to use to handle it.
Yeah, we can go Teferi. And then if it resolves, we can play Path. We can Archmage. I don't know how that's supposed to be said.
I've been saying Archmage's Charm.
We get Archmage's Charm to steal it. We can do that. The advantage of that is we can do both of them on the opponent's turn. We could time the reinforcements to generate 3 blockers, even though we won't gain any life. But yeah, I like this.
We're maybe never gaining life with the. Well, there's some situations where we're gaining life with timely reinforcements. This fetch is an interesting choice.
Well, this is not a hard counter.
Oh, you're right. I just see a Death Shadow in play and a Stubborn Denial, and I'm like, oh, it's a counter.
Wow.
But yes. Oh.
Okay, 2 denials. 2. Boy, that sucks resources wise for Lakad, but the Shadow's on the board.
Yeah, the Shadow's on the board. It's staying on the board. That Teferi is not getting on the board, and we're just gonna hope that
we're attacking for 2.
Oh. Yeah, that feels a little, and it stayed at 2. That feels a little bad. What is in our hand?
Well,
we keep doing this thing where we cannot, for the life of us, figure out what is in Lakad's hand, which I don't know if it's a good or a bad thing. If you're Josh Feliciano, it's probably.
I think I figured it out in game 1.
Okay, yeah. I do agree. It just took us a little bit.
Yeah. So here we are. Yeah, this is all looking honestly terrible for Lakad. When you 2 for 1 yourself. Now this counter is better, but
Oh,
You
except
could
that we're
would
not.
just counter back, and I don't know. Maybe Josh can allow himself to take 4 more hits for 2, and then he can cast Timely Reinforcements and gain life, or Archmage's Charm and steal the shadow and have it live. It's all on the table, but
It is all on the
he's
table, but it looks like we're gonna, just do
yeah.
it now. We don't want the Death Shadow to live at all.
He seems to be in
Oh,
a very, very
unless
good position here.
a lot of decisions needing to be made. Both of these decks quite instant heavy, therefore very timing, sequencing, and decision heavy.
Yeah, there's no reason to rush here because just taking 2 damage doesn't matter.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, these Death Shadows are supposed to be hitting for chunks like 5, 8, 10 damage, and for 2, who cares?
Yeah, it's a bear. Cool.
Josh, I mean, he might even draw cards here. Yeah,
He is highlighting it.
Yeah.
If your deck isn't going to make this Death Shadow bigger, which it's supposed to, then I don't care.
Yeah, this is, I mean, the only removal spell in hand, and Josh is like, I'm still not interested. Just going to draw 2 cards.
Yeah, that speaks volumes to both what is in Lakad's hand as well as Josh's hand.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, and there's a Snapcaster Mage to bring back a path as well as another path.
Yeah. So this is, okay, so our plan is to take 3 more hits, and then we can Snapcaster the Charm and steal the Death Shadow? No. That would have been exciting.
That would have been exciting, but we're going to just go ahead and do the safe play.
Yeah, generic 1-mana rule spell, big deal. Get out of here. This could have been so much more interesting. Instead, we're setting up, I mean, sure, we have everything, but...
we really do have everything. If you have a Cryptic Command and a Snapcaster Mage...
Can Josh just try and style on his opponent here? I mean, winning the game, like, let's add some risk to this. Let's go. The viewers demand, or, well, I don't even know if they do, but I do.
We can't always have what we want as casters. Even if we really would like to always have what we want, we can't always.
All right, here we go. Culligan's Command.
Discard a card, deal 2 damage to your face. Those are certainly modes on Culligan's Command, yes.
Josh has all, reasonable cards. Tyler definitely is the worst.
We dealt 2 damage to our own Death Shadow.
What?
We dealt 2 damage to Death Shadow.
Oh, so it into the graveyard.
Instead of getting us a land.
Okay, well, so we can Culligan's Command it back. And it helps.
That's true. Okay. If we have another Culligan's Command
there's
in hand,
multiple
then that seems
reasons that would make sense.
Sure. Yeah. Okay. That has to be the only reason you would do that, right?
Well, it helps for...
They don't play Claim to Fame anymore.
No, I don't believe so. Lakad is not playing one. I don't know if it's played really at all. But I think
it was played for a second, but it was also a long time ago. Quote unquote long time ago.
Show us the way, Lakad. Let's do it.
It's got to be so scary to even want to cast that right now, because you know that your opponent's got something like this Cryptic Command, and next turn it's going to be a Snap Cryptic.
No, not Mystical Dispute. All right. Well, Lakad's still drawing up to 2 cards. Oh, but that's the great knows about. Yeah, that's.
I think that might be game. This card existing. One of the last cards in the hand was a Street Wraith. Where were these Street Wraiths when our Death Shadow was a 2/2 on the field?
Yeah, no kidding. And when we had to, we
had to cast Stubborn Denial.
Yeah. I mean, if Lakad had that Street Wraith earlier and just been able to preserve a Stubborn Denial in hand for free, for example, counter this Teferi, that might have been a different game. And
let me look at your hand. Too bad it's not going to be that great of a thing, especially when the Teferi is now on the battlefield.
Hey, now, aren't we supposed to be card casters supposed to be like unbiased and neutral? You sounded very pessimistic about Lakad's chances here.
I think that it's realistic. Okay, in that case, what things would Lakad have to draw to pull themselves out of this position?
Well, I don't know, but whatever it is would have to be like 4 runners.
Exactly. And it seems, if I'm pretty much any deck at this point, feeling a little bit disheartened.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. And Teferi allows this castle to make a token, and then we'll make another token, and Lakad playing
Is
Death
it
Shadow
5?
has done 15 damage to himself, and it's not going to take much. Yeah.
Yeah, kind of very unfortunate ways that these
But this is,
hands have played out for this Death Shadow deck.
I mean, these blue-white decks that are not flashy are doing, like we were saying at the beginning of the round, doing very well today.
Mm-hmm.
And this is another one. This blue-white deck is, I mean, this game it drew a couple sideboard cards, didn't resolve any of them, and is kind of smashing again.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Turns out just playing a bunch of card draws, some very strong planeswalkers, and some removal spells is really all you need to be doing good in Modern at this point in the game.
Yeah.
And it's one of those things where you go into a new format and you're like, cool, I have my graveyard hate, I have my aggro hate, but not a lot of people are playing things to be strong against control. It's hard to do things that are strong against control, other than if you're green, maybe playing like Veil of Summer.
Yeah, we'll see. We have the humans decks that were undefeated with Cavern of Souls.
Mm-hmm.
We had a Tron deck that sometimes, if they're built right, can really put a hurting on blue-white control. But in this case, Death Shadow, which, I mean, really is probably a pretty good matchup for blue-white control, gets dispatched.
Yeah.
And Josh Feliciano moves on to 5-0. So that match went long, as opposed to several of our previous ones. And I think we're basically ready to wrap round 5, which means we're going to put a bow on Beky's presence with us here today. Anything you want to say? What deck did you like? What deck did you hate? What co-commentator did you think was your best today?
Well, you were my only co-commentator.
That is not the answer I was looking for.
You were supposed to say, calling you the best.
Yeah, but it was supposed to be something that was, you know.
You were fantastic to cast with, as always. It is a joy to be here. It is a joy to see new Modern and to see so many different decks. Actually, it has been really great. I had a ton of fun actually watching the Pox deck, even though it smashed the deck that I would have brought. It is cool to see, 8-rack/10 rack. It is very cool to see that deck that is kind of one of the very old decks in Modern.
Even
kind
of
come exactly. And just like come back and be this strong force with some newer-ish cards and just kind of beat the pants off of some of the newer cards.
Yeah.
Very cool. Very exciting to see. I don't love watching blue-white control, but it does feel like it is very strong and in a good position, especially at the start of a format. And I imagine a lot of the players playing blue-white control have played a lot of blue-white control in their repertoire, and that helps quite a bit. And of course, it was always a delight to watch a Tron deck, even though the Tron deck also lost. So it turns out a lot of the decks that I typically like just didn't do so well on camera today, but they are still some in some of the top decks, and I look forward to watching them the rest of the day.
All right. Well, thanks for being here, Beky. We appreciate it. You can catch Beky on the VML on most Friday afternoons. Well, it's every Friday afternoon. She participates as a commentator most Friday afternoons. You can see her there on the Aspirant CCG channel. We'll be stepping away to clear out round 5. We'll be back with Will Kruger for the rest of the day. So stick around.